I'm Michael Bain and welcome to Triggered, as always coming to you from the secret hidden bunker in the Rocky Mountains where we have our own Iron Dome. And brought to you by Midway USA, just about everything for shooting, hunting, and the outdoors. Maybe you can get your own Iron Dome there. Last week would have been Colonel Jeff Cooper's 101st birthday. Jeff Cooper had an outsized influence on all of us, on shooting, hunting, rifles, so much of what we do. Tom Russell was one of Jeff Cooper's master instructors. Tom, who owns the American Firearms Academy in Texas, thought it would be a great idea for the Colonel's birthday to have a general rifle class at the Whittington Center in Raton, New Mexico, one of the Colonel's favorite places. Let's take a look.
I'm in position here. I want to, anytime I'm shooting a rifle, regardless of the position, I want to maintain consistent pressure at every point of contact. Okay, so I've got a nice firm grip on the pistol grip. I've got it pressed nice and firmly, and I want to try and duplicate this for every shot as far as the pressure in the position. I've got the same pressure on my cheek. I want my cheek coming down through the center of the comb to the degree that's possible. You're offset, obviously, because it's out on the rifle, it's out on your shoulder, but you want to come down through the center as much as possible. And I typically prefer to come up and plant my cheek like that and get it. You're really experienced, and when you press the trigger, things fall down. And to be honest with you, you really kind of want to see that. That's enjoyable to see. And what you'll do is you'll go pow. So as you're pressing the trigger, you're actually already dropping the gun to watch the hit. And you think, oh, I'd never do that. No, it's one of the most common causes of misses is uncheeking the gun. If you are struggling with your hits, go through the checklist. Am I jerking the trigger? Am I rushing it? Am I mashing that trigger? I don't think that's it. Okay, then more, just as likely, maybe perhaps even more so, am I uncheeking the gun? Or am I properly cheeking it in the first place? Because if I've got that gun down here, everything is off and the gun is going to recoil completely different when I press the trigger. So I shouldn't expect it to be hitting in the same spot.
I think a lot of people, especially younger people, they don't really understand the rifle.
Yes.
And as sort of this whole queen of firearms, and it's always seemed to me, and in talking to the Colonel over the years, is that if you understood the rifle, you understood shooting.
Quite often, it's a lack of appreciation for freedom and independence on the part of those who are younger, and they don't realize that those things don't come free, that those things aren't maintained without cost, that they require work and strength and will, and at times a willingness, to defend freedom and independence. And pertinent to that is going to be the rifle. And the rifle is central to it because of its power, its ease of use, the ability to project one's will at distance, and those things are all key to protecting freedom and independence. But when you have young people who have not been brought up to appreciate the founding principles of our country, and that who have been brought up to believe that government is the answer and the solution to all problems, they're not going to value independence. They're not going to value personal liberty, and so they're not going to value the means to defend it. And having never had any exposure in many instances to those concepts and principles, much less the rifle itself, it's not hard to understand why they would be oblivious to its value. The rotation of that projectile is actually a very fragile thing. It doesn't take anything at all to upset it. What you have with a bullet flying down range, it's spinning because, of course, it hit the rifling grabs it and begins to spin it, and it comes out spinning at an incredible rate. And anything that touches that, it's become a gyroscope, and anything that touches that destabilizes it, and it starts doing weird things. You might not even hit that cardboard. It'd be kind of surprising to me if you did. When I came out here 25 years ago, I hit the prone, and I was shooting this 5-inch steel, and it probably, 50, 60 yards. I don't know how far away it was. It wasn't a difficult shot. For prone, and I'm missing that. And I didn't know why. until after I gained more experience, I realized that I was shooting through grass, and it wasn't that heavy, but I was shooting through grass, and it was causing that deflection. Okay.
I know this sounds dumb, but tell me the difference between a pistol and a rifle, not in terms of the mechanical part of them, but what in fact are they for?
That's actually a great question. A rifle, well, let's start with a pistol. The pistol, conceptually, is it's a defensive weapon. Its virtue, as the colonel would say, its virtue is not in its power. Its virtue is in its convenience. Okay, it's not really up to the task as a rifle would be, but it's so convenient. You can have it on your belt, you can have it on your ankle, and you don't even know that it's there. And so it's there when you need it, when you're surprised with an attack, that's basically what a defensive situation is. Versus a rifle is ever so much more effective at dealing with a hunting situation or a fight because of its power, its ease of use, because typically you have 4 points of contact on the rifle, both hands, the shoulder, and the cheek, and it's easier to align, it's easier to control, it's easier to hit with, it's ever so much more powerful. But the negative is, of course, it's so cumbersome. I mean, a really, really fine, compact, lightweight rifle, we're still looking at 6.5 pounds and, over a yard long, and that's not something that we just typically want to pack around with us every day.
The revolutionary TCM from Rock Island Armory. Fire it once and you'll be hooked. The first thing you'll notice is its sonic boom and enormous muzzle flash as it hurls the exclusive Armscore 22 TCM round downrange at a blistering 2,000 feet per second with penetrating impact. It shoots surprisingly easy with light recoil. The 17-round TCM series. So fun to shoot, it's like a thrill ride, only better.
Welcome back to Triggered and our visit to Raton, New Mexico in the Whittington Center for Tom Russell's General Rifle class.
If you lower the stock so that I've got the toe into the pectoral muscle, it does a couple of things. It's concentrating all the force right there on that pectoral, and also it forces me to lower my head. And what I'll end up doing is, depending on what kind of scope I have, I'm getting my face into the scope and I'm probably going to get cut. Also, this is requiring more muscular effort than with my head erect. And with my head erect, I enjoy greater spinal support. Does that make sense? Rather than, we call it crawling the stock when you're going into it like that. I want to be upright. And so it is with working off the bench. This is a little 6.5 pound gun. We were sighting it in yesterday, and you know what? It was just comfortable. I mean, you're talking about a 6.5 pound 308, and it was comfortable. It was comfortable because it's a very well designed stock, but also because of the technique that I'm using. I want my feet flat on the deck. Regretfully, these stools are not adjustable, because ideally I want to shoot off this bench just like this. I don't mind coming out. In fact, I want to come forward just a little bit, but about this far, as opposed to having to get into the gun or get down to the gun like this. With a stool too high, that forces you quite often. You've got to go forward, or you got to make adjustments out here in order to get the gun higher. Okay, if the stool were lower, or actually if the stool is adjustable, you don't have to mess with adjusting elevation out here. You just adjust it in your stool. Okay. These are just inexpensive. I'm thankful they got them. We've had to use folding chairs before, so this beats that. And I appreciate everything that he's done. Man, isn't it great, this overhang? Yeah. Okay. All right. So I want my body as upright as I reasonably can get it. And the reason I want that is because I want skeletal support. And when the gun recoils, I want my body to be able to move with it versus I'm leaning into it and I'm sucking up all of that recoil. Not a great thing if you're talking about a 308 caliber, or certainly it's not with a 5.56. But man, if you're shooting the mid calibers or heavies and you're leaning into that gun, it's just all kinds of fun, man. It's just fun.
One of the things that I truly appreciated about Colonel Cooper is he was a master teacher, and I just drank that in, and I wanted to associate with him. And of course, being a lover of weaponry myself, I wanted to teach people how to use it effectively. I had always longed to meet Colonel Cooper, finally created the opportunity to do so, and it just was spectacular. It was everything that I ever dreamed it would be. I took a rifle class with him in '95, then the pistol class with him in '96, and I began instructing with him in '97, and he rated me as a master instructor in 2000 when I taught with him at Gunsight, and then I was pretty much from that point on teaching on my own, running American Firearms Academy, which is my business. I haven't taught at Gunsight in many, many years, and I'm very happy to hear that they're still, you know, developing that kind of rapport and relationship with the students that go out there. And I hope that they, you know, I hope they teach 10,000 people out there this year. I know Ken Campbell is operations manager, and I've never heard a negative thing about Ken. Everything has been wonderful, and so I'm confident that the students are receiving fine instruction, and they develop that. We need that family relationship. We need to know that good people are teaching good things everywhere, and that we have that camaraderie and that fellowship, especially in these times when there are those who are working 24/7 to be so divisive. Safety comes off. Both, look how he's sitting there, and I'm not going to keep you there long, but look how he's sitting there. Both elbows are supported. See that? Both elbows are supported. He just lets his hips sink in and comes upright so far as possible. Looks very, very comfortable there. And he presses the trigger, runs the bolt, and the shoulder, and he's ready for another shot if he needs it. All right, look at his position. Both elbows are supported. Now, notice his elbows are slightly inside the knees and not on top. What's wrong with the knees, the elbows being on top? It's ball against ball. That's right. Whereas he's building a little bit of tension right here and right here. He's actually building a little bit of tension to help with the stability. Go ahead and recover.
Why do you think the Scout rifle concept has as long a legs as it does?
Because of the soundness of the concept. It's a powerful system and an extremely compact package, which to those who are truly involved in hunting and so on, they really appreciate. I mean, once again, you see the Colonel just knocking the ball completely out of the park by recognizing something that was so valuable, like he did defensive pistol skills 60 years ago, 70 years ago now. And he did the same thing when it came to the Scout rifle concept. A small, compact, portable rifle that's very handy, that has, as the Colonel would say, a dose of aesthetics, is going to be appealing to a hunter, a huntress, and it possesses sufficient power to deal with most of medium-sized game and large game that we're confronted with, that we're pursuing here in the United States. And it's just superb. It provides you with everything that you need, and yet you're not carrying around a lot of superfluous weight and length. It's just a great system, and we've got several companies that are producing Scout-type rifles right now, and that just speaks to the popularity. Of course, the Colonel's responsible for that.
I know that when Ruger introduced their Scout, they were told it was a waste of their time, and it became their best-selling rifle for several years.
The same thing is true concerning the Steyr Scout. The Steyr Scout was introduced here at the Whittington Center, September 26, 1997. I was there with the Colonel on the Coors range when it was introduced, and it was just magnificent. It was wonderful, and people are missing the boat when they conclude that that is not an effective system. They haven't run the system. I think you had mentioned earlier that the Colonel introduced you to it, and you saw the light. You know, what's not to love about lightweight, compact, attractive, and yet sufficient power to get done what needs to be done at really extended distances? And now you've got Mossberg's on board, Savage's on board. We've got Steyr, we've got Ruger. The only thing that, as we've discussed, we're missing right now is a really premium Scout forward-mounted Scout scope optic. And everyone is caught up in the low-power variable optic, and those are great scopes. They're great scopes, but it would be nice to see what we could accomplish with a forward-mounted premium scope, 30-millimeter tube, 2.5, 2 3/4, 3-power scope, and what we could actually do with that on these premium rifles that we're running.
This week's Triggered is brought to you by Midway USA. Just about everything for shooting, hunting, and the outdoors. Taurus USA, designed to protect. Rock Island Arms Corps, solid as a rock. Volquartsen, engineering the world's finest rimfire rifles, pistols, and parts. And Franklin Armory, making some of the most innovative guns in America.
I don't want anything distracting me from the goal. The goal is to sight in the rifle. And that's really what we use the bench for. We use it, you can use it to test loads, you can use it to confirm a zero, you can use it to set up your zero on your rifle, and then you need to get off the bench if you can. I'm in position. Now, if you would notice how I placed my hand here. My thumb is on the, I call it, it's on the outside away from me. So if I tell you, get your thumb on the outside, I'm telling you to move it on the outside, away from your face. We do this for two reasons. One, it keeps it out of our nose if when we're firing. And number two, notice what this does. If you would step close, can you see how my finger is flat against the stock? Okay, when I press the trigger like that, all right, I'm going to be actually pressing against the stock. So my trigger finger is not just pressing the trigger, it's pressing the stock. And we call that dragging wood. It interferes and complicates your trigger press. Okay, we don't want anything to complicate that trigger press. Putting my thumb outside on the outside, it causes me to rotate my hand further out and gets my trigger finger away from the stock. 5 rounds on your target at 100 yards. Take your time, make the good hits. Thumb on the outside of the gun. Is your support elbow underneath? If not, you pivot on your hips. Get your natural point of aim. Once you're in position, and make sure you're not gripping it hard. Once you fire 10 rounds, stay in position. Just have your bolt open. Of course, I love the Colonel, and I appreciate the opportunity to carry on his legacy. A couple of weeks before he passed away, I was with him, and he was in his deathbed, and we had a wonderful discussion. And I promised him that I would carry on and do the work of teaching good men and women good things, and that's why we're out here.
I hope you were able to pick up some pointers there. There's a lot of subtleties in dealing with scout rifles, general purpose rifles, that can help every single rifleman. So, I am Michael Bain. Of course, you can find us on michaelbain.tv or on YouTube, where you need to hit that great big giant magic subscribe button. As always, we are brought to you by Midway USA, just about everything for shooting, hunting, and the outdoors. And we will see you on Triggered next week, where we've got some new guns. Yes, the embargo has been lifted. And by the way, happy birthday, Colonel.